From New York City to Los Angeles, Powered Up Talk Radio is giving women of all ages permission to live the life they'd always dreamed of. Here are your hosts, Sandra Beck and Linda Franklin.
Hi, this is Sandra Beck, and we're here today with Linda Franklin, Fred Lanzetta, and Lisa Transcendence Brown, and this is Powered Up Talk Radio, and we're going to talk today about creativity and how creativity kind of expands, as we elevate, as we become heart open, as we raise our consciousness. There's so many different ways to explain what's going on as we move through this next phase of our lives, and we're here to help you understand by sharing our stories, by sharing our friendship. And of course, our great guest, Lisa Transcendence Brown, is here to answer a lot of our questions. Now, one of the things we're experiencing is this kind of boost in creativity, this opening that's happening. I'm going to go to Linda first in New York. We've got Linda and Fred in New York, Lisa in Hawaii. I'm here in Los Angeles. And we're going to talk about this boost, this opening of the creative spirit. Linda.
Well, it's certainly opening mine. About 2 weeks ago, or 2.5 weeks ago, I started to write poetry. I've never written poetry in my life. And it's all about the stuff that I'm learning now, the stuff I'm experiencing, the stuff that I want to download. And it's coming out in these wonderful little poems. And it's so easy and it's so much fun. I've written before, I've written a book, and I've written different things for websites and all of it. But this is just fun, and it's a joy, and it's easy, and it's, I've heard it from other people, but now I'm experiencing it for myself. It's like coming through me, because sometimes I won't even remember what I wrote after I wrote it, and I said, wow, that's pretty good. So, that it's just a beautiful feeling, and it's my way of releasing the pain body in me, because I feel so light and terrific after I do this.
It's awesome. It's many things. It is pretty cool, isn't it? And it's all about becoming present within the moment. If you'll notice, you're present within your moment. When you're writing, when you're doing these things, creativity comes through presence. And it's many things. So you know me, I got to go all over the place here. Not have to, but it gives a bigger picture, because quantum is the whole picture versus just fragments and aspects and stuff. Once we start tuning in vibrationally, and everybody is being moved, we've talked about 3D, 4D, 5D, and then we get into way higher, much D, okay? And it's a density, it's a frequency bandwidth. It's a level of consciousness where reality was created from that consciousness. And so as we elevate our consciousness, which can be done in many ways, but this is bigger than consciousness, we have to get our physical body's vibration up, because our physical body was actually located in those frequency bandwidths too, which is how physical reality came to be in the old way and changes, because as your body drops density, you actually change dimensions. Okay, I know I'm going sideways, but this is important. Can't talk multidimensionality without talking multidimensionals, okay? All multidimensional, everything. As each person recalls their consciousness, brings it back inside. For humans, 3D consciousness is their mind was off everywhere else. This is about bringing your mind, your energy, your consciousness back inside of you and being fully present within you, connected on a level that our human aspect didn't have the capability to do. The more present you are within yourself, the more access you have, the more information you have access to, the more connected you are. And through that connection comes your creativity through your heart. And so the more connected each person is, the more creativity there is. It's beautiful. It's brilliant. It's fun. There's so much information. In the beginning, the information's a higher vibration than me. That's why you don't remember it. And it's different levels of consciousness, if you will. In one moment when you're writing, you're in a certain state of consciousness, but let's say you stop writing and you go back into an exchange with somebody else that maybe it's not an awesome exchange, you shift levels of consciousness.
Right. And
when you shift out of that connected place inside of you, if you go into an exchange, I'm giving examples here because it helps everybody, okay? Yes. If you separate off inside, you go unconscious. in that deeply connected, it's a very sacred place. It's very light. It's very happy. It's your spirit coming through. It's your soul coming through. It's not outside anymore. This is, our spirit is light. You know, and I saw somebody write the other day saying, that's your soul, but that's not your spirit. And it's like, the spirit is, to me, when I started doing this, my spirit was my happy. My spirit was my joy. My spirit was when I was free and dancing and enjoying everything, and it was light. Your soul is deep inside of you. So your spirit's an aspect of your soul, if you will. Your soul is many things, but it's deep inside, and it's beneath all of the old stuff, the judgment, the fears, and all that kind of stuff. So we have to go through it, get to it. And once you reach that place inside, then everything is beautiful. It's magical. It's amazing. But all that other stuff was in the way. Mm-hmm. And every person continues to be taken deeper, 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 deeper. This whole journey is the deeper you go inside. Notice, Linda, when you're writing, you're inside.
Yes.
Okay. The deeper you go inside, the more expanded your consciousness is. Okay. So if you close your heart, you disconnect from the depth. I'm trying to simplify this to make it easy. When you close your heart, your mind in that state was connected to a universal consciousness. Your higher state of consciousness, your universe. You literally do become the whole universe. Again, there's nothing else outside. And then we go on from there. In that state, you are connected, you're listening, you're open, you're flowing. Notice the flow is from the inside out. It's not a taking energy, which is what the root chakra, the ego does, is it pulls inward out of lack and need. It attaches to everything. When you're in that space, you're in complete peace. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful. Who wouldn't want to stay in that place?
Yeah, so that's the goal, to be in that place all the time.
All the time, and this is where it's going to go into Fred's from earlier, is this is where time ceases to exist. All time will go. Time was a human creation held within our physical body template. And as your vibration of your body raises through your elevating your consciousness, as you elevate your consciousness and hold it, and this is the challenge for a long time, is to hold that higher state of consciousness. Your DNA is rewriting itself. And while it's rewriting itself, it's dropping density, but it's also bringing your body through to a higher dimensional, a physical existence that's completely different than the old one. But in our early stages of unconsciousness, we all had amnesia, and we didn't know this. It's a frequency bandwidth. Every dimension is a different frequency bandwidth. Okay. And in the lower frequency bandwidths where we were all unconscious, we didn't have a clue. We didn't have access to this information. Mm-hmm. We didn't have the capabilities that we have. There are so many things that are available when our heart opens, and our heart was closed. We lived in fear. We lived in protection mode. We lived in attachment. We lived in need. We lived in all of these things, which is a 3D level of consciousness, which dictates the physical reality. So in order for our whole entire physical reality to change and literally take our body, you're pulling your body into a higher dimension when you're holding that higher state of consciousness. And your whole reality too. When you hold the higher state of consciousness, you're pulling everything into a higher dimension yourself. But it takes a while because you have to hold it. Where we have an unconscious program still going on, we go back into an old mentality. Then we re-enter that old dimension, that old reality again, to clear it out, to let it go, to work through it, to move through it, to clear those emotions. The emotions represent the belief systems. Mm-hmm. They also, there's going to be, for a lot of people, there's physical pain that goes along with this. Every stage of the light body is different, and we have different light bodies, okay? In order to activate our light body, our heart has to be wide open. When we start opening our heart, you guys know when you started opening your heart, you had stuff coming up. There's anger, there's fear, there's blame, there's shame, there's guilt, there's judgment, there's all this stuff. that was of a third dimensional level of consciousness that was anchored in our cellular body. And our body couldn't leave the third dimension. Well, Gaia, our Earth, has reached such a high frequency that now each person, their body is working really hard to elevate its consciousness. The body was asleep, and release all of that stuff. And when our heart is open fully and we're fully connected, the whole outside world falls away. Linda, notice when you're writing, you don't care about anything out there.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And technically, that's what we all have to do. There's a lot of stuff that goes into when our body's template is rewriting itself. We have templates and blueprints and all of these things, schematics, all kinds of cool, weird, energetic things. But they dictate the dimension our physical body is located in.
So my question is, because that's such a beautiful place, and we've all of us here have experienced it. But then how do we do the things that we need to do, whether it be feeding the kids or doing your job or whatever else there is? How do you fit that in to that new space?
You're going to learn how to do everything all over again. Get okay with that, because if you're not, it's going to be tough. It's going to be challenging. It's going to be a struggle. Okay. You're going to do it through your heart instead of control from your head. You're going to do it in flow on a universal level, on an energetic level. You're still going to get up and prepare food. The difference is you're not going to be under time constraints and beating yourself to death and, oh, I've got to race this clock. You're not going to be racing a clock. It's going to be easy. When you are deeply connected on a soul level and fully present within the moment, you actually go slower and time falls away. Brad, you were talking about this earlier. What used to take 20 minutes takes 3 minutes. Because because we actually dictate time. We actually can slow down time and bring it to a complete halt until it all falls away. Everybody on Earth, literally, is leaving the time, which is what, when the 12/12 occurred, and actually it started before that, the 11/11 of the year before, it started increasing for a lot of people, okay? But 12/12 was the time went away. And so since then has been each person and each collective coming through when it's their time. Does that make sense? You no longer have a time constraint existence. You have a vibrational one. So everything is vibrational here. Okay? So if you're in tune within the moment, you're going really slow, it's really easy. You're changing your brainwave state of your whole body. Okay, it's kind of like walking around in a meditative state, which is kind of what you're doing, because meditation for a lot of people elevated the brainwaves or changed the brainwave state. And I was just writing about this yesterday, actually. What happens is your human body is going to go through challenges as it wakes up, as it clears the density, as it releases all the programming, as it rewrites its DNA and entire genetic makeup. It's vast, it's huge. But what happens is your life gets easier if you let go of the need to control it. If you notice your old belief systems, the old belief systems cause suffering. They create the limits, and we're about to see, and I'm just going to say this really quick, it is all of those old belief systems, the judgment, that's going to be off the charts for everybody where their body and their mentality and their consciousness is still located in a 3D level of consciousness.
I think, you know, the old construct that we were in 3D said the harder you work, the more you're going to get done, the more successful you'll be, blah, 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 blah.
The slower you go.
Now we're first realizing that when we let that go and just go into our heart and be in that place, you get so much more done, and it's so much easier, and it's actually fun doing it. I mean, exactly. So that is the whole mindset that has to be changed for heart set.
Our whole reality is built upon what you enjoy. And this is where people are challenged. They're like, I don't have any joy in that anymore. Well, then don't do it. I mean, that's what this is about, is that you move to a state of complete peace. You move to a state of complete joy. You move to a state that's completely happy, and inside of you is where everything was. And so getting so deeply present within the moment, we actually function from within the moment. We flow on an energetic level. And time is dictated by how fast your brain goes. So if your heart closes, your head gets back into control. Your head starts going wacko. I'm creating a picture here. Time collapses if you do.
They're all relate.
Everything speeds up. You have less time. But, and it's cool because when I started doing this in my sleep state in Ancient Elder, which is one of my, these are all our aspects. Okay, everything that you see is an aspect of yourself teaching you're human. And starting to understand how all this works is really important. But I called him Father Time. And he came to me in my sleep and he's like, I'm about to teach you how to master time. And he held his hand out and I'm like, oh, cool. And I reached out to take his hand and then I woke up and I was like, but wait a minute, you didn't teach me. And I get a lot of people saying, but I woke up. That's because your every moment experience from that point forward is going to be learning how to do this in the physical. And so my every moment was listening to my higher self, because I still, eventually you don't separate off into human and higher self. You become a higher self and you recognize your human programming and you just clear it. It's no big deal. Okay, you don't go unconscious, your heart doesn't close anymore, you're fully present, and you expand to become the whole universe and everything falls away. You start to understand you created all of this. This is all yours. And now Linda, I'm gonna come back to creator. This is your creator. We become source creator. You create an entire, you're gonna recreate all your realities from scratch. They're all going to be aligned on a soul level that brings happiness, that supports humanity. And in the beginning, we're like, but my little stuff, it doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Because it's a vibration. It has nothing to do. This is what people get hung up on. They look at the thing and they focus on the thing, and instead of understanding, it's the vibration you transmit out. It's the energy you hold. It's what you transmit out into the world. And if you're transmitting love, if you're showing up each day, understanding your job is to hold your vibration and your consciousness as high as you can and keep it there. That's the challenging part in the beginning. But that's called mastering your physical reality. Yeah. And as you ascend your consciousness, you become an ascended being again. And from an ascended state of consciousness, you function from a place of pure love. You also become pure source creator, and everything is your creation. From 0 point field, everything is created. From this moment, everything is created. It's becoming so fully conscious of your thoughts, your transmissions, your vibration is creating a reality you're going to experience. And that's where you become very responsible for what you transmit out. This is where you start to realize that if you allow yourself to continue in unconscious reality, you're going to experience an unconscious reality. And it gets bigger than that, because then we get into every dimension and all this kind of stuff, and we get into clearing the Akashic records. We get into all these things because we have to clear every dimension, every timeline, every existence, all of the distortions of all of those through different levels of consciousness that all activate from that 0 point field. And so in order to do the vastness, if you will, of what we came here to be and do, you have to be so fully present that everything else falls away. You will know through presence in the moment to get up and go fix food. Your body will say, I'm hungry. Your children will say, I'm hungry, and you will get up, but you won't have to think about it. Okay? Now here's the tricky part. Not really, but that's my words. If you stop and think about it, you re-enter the separation of time, and it takes longer.
Yep. Then you resent the person for annoying you and coming in and pulling you out of that space.
You eventually learn. So like I walk around my house, I constantly am creating 24 hours a day. It's all about creation and accomplishment and what we're transmitting and how we're uplifting and the things, the roles we came to fulfill. Everything becomes about your higher purposes. Everything. But it has to come in the beginning through you starting to be present, each one of us, and learning to focus on your vibration and what's going on within you. And in the unconscious dimensions, where we all started to some degree, some more unconscious than others. I was one of those, okay. To be fully conscious and present, it brings through a new energy of deep sacred love and respect and a different integrity. It's completely different than human. Everything is different than our human ego realities were. They're opposites. So in the old days, when I say old days, unconscious dimensions, doesn't really matter, third dimension, you know, we have a lot of names for them. Everybody focused on the outside world, what's going on outside, make sure everybody's happy, make sure everybody's taken care of. And in order to bring your body out of a 3D reality, 3D level of consciousness, into a 4D, which is where duality is, which is where everybody basically is because duality is the battle between your head and your heart. Mm-hmm. And into the fifth dimension where you live from your heart. Then once you learn how to be present within the moment, higher mind consciousness starts to open up. And this is connecting with your higher self, the epiphanies, the brilliance, the genius, but it's also an innocent child that loves to play and have fun and connect with nature and create and color outside the lines. And, you know, you have all these things that we didn't know how to do. We had too many constraints. Too many limits, too many, you have to do this. Now, a lot of people, they read my work and they're like, you keep telling us we have to. Well, from the very highest dimension, we do have to. And humans don't like to hear the have tos, but it's a quantum level of have to. It's a quantum cosmic consciousness that dictates through energy. If we want to live our most amazing realities here, then we do have to, otherwise we get the other.
Right.
But so my have to that I'm putting out is we have to shift our energy. We have to shift our mentalities. We have to shift our levels of consciousness out of our root chakra fear into our heart. I'm going to chakras for a moment to make a point. You have to learn to live from your heart chakra. And keep your heart wide open no matter what happens. Because if you close your heart, the next experience is to get it open again. And when I started learning how to open and close my heart, one time I was going through a breakup and I went from connected state of beauty and okay, I'm acceptance and I get it and all that stuff to anger in like in a split second. And the moment I went to anger, my heart closed, excuse me. And I'm like, you know what? And here comes my attitude and my ego, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what? Blah, 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 blah. And in that split second, because you'll actually start to hear your higher self, which is your voice. You'll have different energies and vibrations. They can sound different, but they're all you. And that's tricky in the beginning because we don't know that it's us. In that moment, the words were, don't close your heart. Don't close your heart. Open it back up again. Because if you do, the next time's going to be worse. I went, uh-oh. Okay. And I just kept crying and I got it out and I stomped my feet and I got angry because it's a conscious release. You're releasing all the programming. You're releasing all that stuff. And I stomped around. I cried. You know, I learned how to allow myself to be a victim long enough to clear the energy and then shift out of victim mode. So I was consciously allowing myself to be a victim to get it out. But on another level, I knew I wasn't a victim. You can run multi-dimensions of consciousness if you're that conscious. And so clearing the energy, then it's like, okay, go back, take a shower and get to work because I was working in service. And it's like, go back. That's more important than what you're going through. Clear the energy, but get focused. And what you learn to do is focus your energy. And in the beginning, we call it channeling. You channel your energy. You learn how to manage your energy. Okay, so now I'm going back to creativity because I know I went sideways, but it's all important, okay? Creativity opens up the portals to the other dimensions. Creativity brings your remembering through, and the poetry is a part of opening up to your higher self, your soul. All my activations, they rhyme, because they are a harmonic transmission a vibration that when I started remembering and writing activations for people, they all came through in a harmonic tone and rhythm. And as they came through, even when I record them, I have to record them in specific tones and frequencies and rhythms, because the way I record them is a massive activation that goes straight to the cellular program.
Like music.
Like music. But I didn't know what I was doing in the beginning. I just knew that everything rhymed. Okay. But it all had a rhythm and a tone to it. So like now, if I got up the other morning and wrote a new activation, but actually recording it takes more energy, because I actually have to pay attention to every tone, every frequency. Now, what will happen for each one of us as you become a vibrational being, as you become a soul being, as you become your soul, as you become spirit in form, all of these things start to occur. But it's all about joy and happiness and peace. It's no longer about the chaos and the judgment and the slinging of the hash and the who's doing what to who anymore. You let that go, because you start realizing you're compromising and giving your happiness away.
So really you're making better choices, because before, you look at what's in front of you and you say, I can go here, I can go there. And just for me now, more times I'm going to the heart place than the head place, where before I always went to the head place, because my ego said, I've got to be right.
Yeah, you learn to let go of being right, because you understand it's just a fight. It's a bunch of egos. Everybody needs to be right. And you'll actually have to hold your tongue for a while to clear that energy. And so it's not about being right anymore. It's about peace. It's about love. It's about respect. It's about integrity on a soul level, on a cosmic level. It's about honor. It's about kindness. It's about compassion. It's about all these things our ego doesn't have the capability. Okay? It's about feeling. And so in the beginning, we didn't like the way we felt.
But I think you're right, because you're less drawn into arguments. Everybody kind of teases me at my work, and they're like, oh, they call me Dorothy, like Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz, who just comes in and, is like a child of wonder and watching everything go around. Yeah. And, I watch all this, these salespeople fighting and the management fighting, and everybody's, it's like they're vying for nothing.
Well, and in essence, they're vying for control. In essence, what happens is we don't understand there's an inner matrix inside of our body that's going through a restructuring process, and this inner matrix has to completely rework itself. And the old 3D matrix was built upon egos. And that's what's collapsing and falling apart, is all of the realities built upon the head. That was 3D. And in order to learn to live from a 5D existence, which is necessary now, okay? What we start to understand, that when you re-enter a 3D level of consciousness exchange, then you re-enter 3D and your happy goes away.
Yeah.
Yes.
You're choosing. Even if it's an unconscious choice, you're still choosing. This is why it's so important to be fully present and choose. Is this what I want to engage my precious energy in? Is this how I want to live? Is this the experience I want to create again? Or do I just want to step back? And there's a lot of criticism when a lot of us start stepping back. And you just let the whole reality collapse. Let the whole reality play itself out. You choose the reality that brings you the most joy.
Well, yeah, the pushback is always, you don't care. I hear this all the time. You're not paying attention. Why aren't you defending me? Why aren't you supporting me? And there is a big part of it that I don't care, because this is your fight, not mine. This is your argument, not mine. I'm just going to stay here in peace.
But all of those comments you just made, they have one thing in common, and it's called judgment. Okay? What we're about to go through is going to be the death of judgment, which means it's going to be quite intense. Okay? Because the death of judgment occurs when everybody ascends. All right? 5D Earth now prevails over 3D Earth. 5D Earth prevails over 4D Earth. 4D is where you have to make a choice. Okay, it's where you have to choose the new Earth existence over old Earth existence. are you going to continue the old ways? And those realities will completely collapse. That's what we're going through, especially since we've completed all of these higher dimensional templates with Gaia. Okay? It is that 3D is doomed to collapse. Do you want to be in that reality? No. Well, who would?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question. Can I ask a question real quick?
Of course you can. But I want to say judgment is a 3D energy.
Yeah.
Based upon fear and a lack of self-empowerment, and each person managing their own energy. They're projecting it because they're looking out there and they're judging because they don't like how it's pushing them. So anyway, go ahead.
Well, I was stretching with a friend at the gym, and we were using a railing, and we were facing each other. Mm-hmm. And a woman came up behind my friend, and she had her face in the phone, and she stood there making grunting noises for us to move. Mm-hmm. And there were 3 other places she could have walked. She didn't have to walk right through us.
Right.
But she wanted us to move.
Mm-hmm.
So
because her ego was in the way, right?
Right. So I just got up and moved, and then my friend got up and moved, and she said, "What was that?" And I said, "Well," and she wanted to go in on it, and she said, and then I made a mistake and said, "Geez, that person works here." And then she just went, "Well, you need to tell management this and that." And I said, "You know what?" I said, "Let's do something else. I don't want to talk to her or have management talk to her. Let's talk about what she did. And let's talk about the
observe it, learn from it.
Culture she lives in, where this woman, as young as attractive as she is going to go through her whole day, her whole life with her face in the phone, unconscious about everything around her." I said, "That's pretty sad, right?" I said, "Also, I think it's a part of our culture now. Because if you live in a pedestrian city like I live in, everyone's walking around with their head down on their phone, like 9 out of 10 people. So it can become challenging." So I just told my friend, I said, "I just navigate it. I just walk around people and I don't participate." And then I said to her, I said, "So that happens a lot less for me now, I'm noticing."
Right. Because
if I don't have to be right with her,
right,
and I don't go talk to somebody about her, or I don't engage myself with her.
Which is what the victim does. It carries it on.
Yeah, it happens less.
It's a victim mentality. But notice the energy when that occurred. The lady went to a complete victim mentality of being wronged. That's duality. Okay? What happens is we start to realize, just get up and move. Who cares? Right. It's only the ego that wants to engage. And then you will actually learn how to be kind in those situations and bring kindness to those people. And I say those people because I'm talking about a dimension of consciousness, okay? Now, what will happen, Fred, which is the really cool thing, is the more you choose kindness, the more you choose not to engage, you will not experience those realities because you don't hold the vibration anymore. Your walking around will be with people not stuck in their phone as often. If they are, you won't care because you'll be looking up at the clouds and playing with the universe and having a freaking blast. You won't even care. When I started in my early phases, if you will, of waking up, I noticed that when I was looking at the ground, I was stuck in the past or the future, and I was in fear. I noticed that I was playing out worry, that I was all stuck in, that I was having to clear something. I wasn't present within the moment. And I actually had to force myself to look up and at people and make a connection with them. What I started realizing was that I had judgment. I had gone small. I couldn't look at people. I couldn't connect with them. I would turn away. And so what I started doing was saying, you know what, I'm going to look at every person and be present within the moment. And I'm going to greet them with a hug energetically. I'm going to greet them with a smile. I'm going to greet them with happy. I'm going to greet them and get out of the past and the future. I'm going to say this because this is going to help a lot of people, okay? What I started doing was I started connecting with each person. The moment I did, they looked down. They couldn't look at me. I'm like, oh, avoidance. Oh, can't make a connection. Oh, and I started studying. what I started realizing that when my heart was wide open, I was up in the clouds, which is where our ascended state of consciousness is. I was talking to my universe. I was looking at the birds. I was playing. It took me a really long time to where I could actually look back at the ground and not be in the past or the future. And then it turned it into looking at the ground became a game of what I could find. And then I started finding money, which meant abundance was coming. And so all these cool things started happening. Where we place our consciousness is the reality we experience here. And so the ego aspect, and I refer to the ego aspect because the ego aspect, most people don't understand 3D, 4D, 5D. It is our consciousness. It's our experience that we have. It's our energy. Okay? In the old days, pre-2012, 3D was the physical realm. Now there's a 5D physical realm, but you got to de-densify the body and clear the programming for your body to walk in a fifth dimensional reality where you don't run into egos. And if you do, it's a very different exchange. Your role is to elevate. Your role is to bring things into consciousness. Your role is to be the light. Your role. And so we start understanding our roles that we can play here. Is to transmit love, to bring more kindness, to not be triggered. If you get triggered, it's yours.
And to be free. Like that's through all this whole, everything we've been going through is you finally get to be free. You can be free wherever you are. That's the other. You can choose to be free,
or you can choose to go back in the old stuff and clear some of your programming. Because this is the thing about it, is our ego aspect, our human, I call it the human aspect, because once you expand into the galaxies, everybody's a bunch of humans running around, okay? Our ego aspect lives from a place of fear and control and judgment and all of these things. And we actually have to choose not to live that life anymore. We actually have to choose. When we've been unconscious, we have to choose. Once you've chosen it, you don't have to choose anymore. It's easy. And so we basically have to look at everything and decide, do I want to be happy and free? Or do I want to go through all the turmoil? Do I want to suffer? And anybody that's going through suffering, that's their own ego program. Anybody that's going through, because even if we hit a tough time in the beginning, you just elevate your consciousness to a higher state of consciousness, and you shift your perspective, and you can shift the actual dimension of your consciousness. Therefore, the whole physical reality changes. Mm-hmm. And so realizing that every moment is a choice. It's either an unconscious or a conscious one. Every moment is a choice. And what you choose on an energetic level is going to create your next moment. If you choose from an unconscious place, if you refuse to choose and you let unconsciousness rule, you experience an unconscious reality again, which is what brings suffering and harsh and all that kind of stuff. If you choose to open your heart bigger, and when your heart opens fully, the control your mind has goes away. When your heart is open, your mind doesn't rule. Then higher mind consciousness can come in. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. So in talking to the creatives that are, looking at today's, show is about creativity, how would you suggest, Lisa, we've got Fred, who's a writer, Linda's a poet.
That's awesome.
How would you suggest people get into that heart open space? I know in a perfect world, we're heart open all the time, but especially for me, sometimes I sit down and it's really hard for me to shift from where I am or whatever I experience, because I'm still struggling, with a lot of this stuff. So how do I sit down and create a heart open, transcendent, creative experience?
One is realize there's a bazillion ways to do this. Don't think of just one. Our human aspect will go, what one way can I do this? If one doesn't work, try another one. If another one doesn't work, try another one. Keep going until you find the one that works for you. And what works this time isn't always going to work the next time. Okay, because this is a vibrational existence. So you have to decide and try and see. Our human aspect won't try things. It'll sit around waiting for the answer. That's not how this works. You have to explore something new. It's about exploring, and it's kind of like an adventure that you're going on. One, the very first thing I recommend is to actually say the words out loud that you release your ego. That's what did it for me in the beginning. What I would actually, if you close your eyes, you take the power of your mind away, and your heart can actually open easier, and you can actually tune in inside vibrationally easier too. Okay. But the first thing I would do is say, I release my ego. And when you do that constantly, then you're telling your body to let go. You're telling your body and so understanding as your higher self, you're telling your ego, it's okay, let go. Okay. One thing is to release the ego. Two is to shift your focus. Okay. Shift your focus on the vibration of the whole thing. Instead of, okay, so when we sit down, if we're in our head, it's a pulling energy. It's about me. If we're in our head, then we're trying to control. If we're in our head, we're trying too hard. And this is about letting completely go. A surrendered state. You surrender your ego so your heart can open. Okay. And so to achieve that surrendered state where you completely let go, the moment you let go, your heart opens again. And then you shift your vibration and your energy about what you're doing. Okay. So I started understanding, like when my universe told my little human that I was going to be writing books. I'm like, I'm not writing books. I would argue. And so one, pay attention to your arguments, because you're going to be refusing to do the thing that you have to do. Okay. If your ego's in control. And that refusal is what causes suffering, because it's going to happen anyway. You might as well enjoy it, right? But when I started shifting my focus off of myself and looking at the bigger picture and looking at the people who were going to read what I wrote, when I started caring about them more than I did myself, when it no longer became about me. So a lot of people, when they sit down and write, they're like, oh, what do I want to say? And what do I want people to think about me? And look at, you're still in your head. What we do has nothing to do with what we want. What we do has to do with how we show up in the world and how we make a difference and how much love we bring. What we do is how it touches the hearts of another. What we do is to uplift, to inspire, to raise the vibration. So the question I would ask myself is, what is going to touch the heart of another? And it wasn't what I thought I was going to write. Usually I had to find another perspective, because I wasn't writing about my woes and my bad day anymore, because our human loves to write about our stuff, okay? And everything that happened to us. Yet when you start connecting on a higher self level, you actually write the things that make a difference for somebody else. And what will happen is people will start to read vibrationally the energy of what you're writing, and they can tell you care. I can read the energy of everything. Everything transmits a frequency and a vibration. I can see light codes in everything. And so an email can come in, and I don't even have to even open the email. I can feel the energy of it, like, nope, don't even need to read it. Because human aspects don't understand they're projecting when the heart is closed. There's lack, there's need, there's attachment, there's demands, there's control, there's all this stuff that goes on. Whereas I can tell where somebody's coming from if it's pure. I can tell if their ego's involved, because it transmits a lower vibration, literally, a different frequency bandwidth. And so for you or anybody wanting to do this, if you are coming from your pure heart, it doesn't matter what you put out into the world. The words don't matter. What you put out will be different because you care. And that energy alone will touch the hearts of every person that reads that. And so you basically focus on your vibration. What I started doing was I would look at the person on the other side. You use your pineal gland through your heart. I would see them opening. Let's play with Facebook, because I did on Facebook for years. I still do. I would get up and say, what am I going to write that's going to make a difference for somebody? And everything I wrote had a different purpose. And so I started finding that everything I wrote, it didn't really matter. I could write anything I wanted to, because a different collective was going to identify with this, and another collective's going to identify with this, another dimension's going to identify with that. And so the things I thought I wanted to write, nobody cared about. The things that I wrote that I didn't really want to put out there, that's what everybody loved. I'm like, okay, so everything's backwards now. You're gonna find. Every time I would write something that reached really deep, I'm like, I really don't want to put that out. The moment I hit the send button, it blew up and went crazy. And it's like, yeah, everybody loved it. I'm like, really? I wasn't even going to post that. And I started finding the things I didn't want to post were the things that meant the most. Now, I didn't bring my personal stuff into anything, though. The only time I brought my personal stuff into it was to explain.
Right. To use it as a parable.
It's just a story. It's to explain the energy of something. But I always offered a higher perspective. Sometimes the higher your vibrational frequency, the more you can expand your consciousness, the more dimensions you have access to, the more perspectives you have, the more you have to offer. So I went from having one additional perspective to 2 or 3 or 4, and then it hit 12, and then it hit 100,000. I'm going, oh, good God, I'm never going to finish. You know me, guys. I'm like, oh, what? Because that's quantum. You can see from every dimension. You can see every perspective. And what happens is the more that you expand your consciousness, the more you have to offer. Mm-hmm. And so when I sit down and write, I'm not writing for myself. I know this stuff. I write for others because it makes a difference in their life. And that's why we do those things. And so check and see where you're coming from. Is it about you? If it is, you're transmitting a vibration that's only going to bring crap. If you want it, I got to be honest here, okay? But if you shift your vibration and open your heart, it doesn't matter what you write, because it's the vibration that you write from. The words will be softer when they come from the divine feminine aspect of you. It'll be kinder when it's your ascended aspect of you. You know, I'm doing these different aspects, okay? But what will happen is when you elevate your consciousness and your heart opens, you're kind, you're respectful. You care, you have compassion, and the ego doesn't get involved at all. And so it's really just saying to yourself, this is going to open somebody's heart. That's all you really need. It's really just shifting our perspective of things. The other thing was I removed the time limits of things that I thought I had to do. So when I was writing the book, I put a time limit on it, and I started understanding time limits actually constrained me and shut me down. And so you want to release the time constraints. You want to be able to be free and flowing, but you can set a goal. And if you don't meet it, so what? Because our goals are vibrational. You will finish it when you need to finish it. And when you start creating, I'm going to say these things because they're really important, okay? Because we're vibrational, in every moment, you don't feel like being creative. Especially when you're going through a template rewrite. In your body, you got zero creativity there. So you can't beat yourself up if you're not able to find any creativity. This is where it's important to shift your body, your location. Get up and leave where you are. Get up and go outside and sit on the earth. Get up and go find a waterfall. Get up and clean. Get up and do something, because if you're sitting there and nothing's coming, you need to move your body to move the energy.
How long does a template rewrite take? Are we talking days, weeks, months? Like,
it depends on how human, how much ego we have. We're always going through template rewrites. Vibrationally, it depends on how much unconscious programming we carry. For the really dense 3D body where our light body hasn't activated, then template rewrites take years. Okay, they're not, and this is where the voids come in. This is where depression comes in. This is where all of these emotions come in, where we hold on or suppress. The deeply unconscious body will take years and years and years, and because the body can't clear that, we can't get our vibration high enough. We suppressed it all. We ran from it all. We pushed it back in, and our body has to clear all that stuff so that our light body can fully activate. An activated light body is going to clear a lot faster until it gets to where every moment is a cellular collapse and rebirth. So it's going to depend on the density and the unconsciousness of the person. This is why it's so important to raise your vibration of your body. If your body's not happy, get your body happy. For some people, it's the foods they eat. The vibrational food has a vibration, tone, sound. What you surround yourself with dictates your body's vibration. So get the vibration of your surroundings as high as you can. It does matter what you allow in your field. Everything you allow in your field will dictate your level of consciousness. Okay? And until each person has been able to reach a certain level of light quotient inside, they don't have the ability to dictate the physical. The physical dictates their reality. We dictate the physical. We hold light. We set the stage. We set the tone. But you have to be fully in your power and deeply connected from inside, where you don't disconnect and shut down or close your heart anymore. Okay? Template rewrites. You know, this morning when we got up, it's like, oh, template rewrite, because I can hear and see all the frequencies and stuff like that. It might last a day. It might last a couple hours. We have stargates. We have gateways. We have all these things that occur. Our heart opening, I started calling them heart gates, because they're actually stargates or heart gates. When your heart opens, it activates your Merkaba for physical body ascension to occur. All these weird energetic things make a difference in what dimension you occupy with your body. Okay? But our heart has to be wide open, and all that stuff that was suppressed inside's got to be able to go. And our physical body. That's why I do what I do, is get your physical body's vibration up. If you're not happy, move it to a location where you are. If you're not happy in your living room, but your bed is where you're happy, go get in the bed. Go to sleep, because sleeping raises your body's vibration and allows you to connect and get your ego mind out of the way. There's a ridiculous amount of sleeping that occurs when light is activating in our body. But if the current location of your body, if the food you're eating, if you're putting death into your body, these things contribute to how your body, how your light can activate and your body can vibrate. Because your body cells, your light cells actually move inside 24 hours a day. And so it's a very different existence, your light body, and learning to manage energetically a whole new existence based upon light is a very different existence than it was before. But your heart has to be completely open for that to occur. And through that deeply connected state, you're going to understand things that don't linearly or logically make any sense at all. It's the opposite of the old ways. It doesn't come through your head anymore. It comes through your heart. Heart intelligence, higher mind consciousness, all of this comes through your heart. And then your pineal gland evolves to where a light comes on, your neural pathways open up, and then you have access to all the dimensions from inside. You can see them all from inside out. It gets very weird and bizarre. There's a psychedelic trip that occurs, and DMT starts releasing from your body. So it's a very physical experience. Okay, I know I went sideways, but all right. So back to the question.
Well,
What's the question?
Okay, because I've got to take us to the end of the show.
Okay.
Fascinating, Lisa. How can people find out more about you?
Awakening to Remembering website is where I post everything. I write on a regular basis. It's all about uplifting humanity. It's all humanitarian service through elevating our consciousness. It's a complete re-education. We have to be open to learn everything new again. So basically open completely up and get ready to learn everything all over again, for it to be an easier journey. Awakening to Remembering, Facebook, Lisa Transcendence Brown, any of those places. I'm always posting. I put everything out publicly for anybody who's interested. It's called a living library. But I have like eons and eons of writings and sharings and videos and interviews and everything that teaches all of this. So that's the best place.
Can I ask one question before we close, Sam?
Of course.
We've got a minute 15.
Okay, and Lisa, in your experience, are more and more people opening up to these new ideas, these new concepts, these new way of living from your heart and not your mind? Are they coming to you in droves, or is it like a dribble drabble and
Droves.
Fighting.
It's been droves for years. It's going to continue to increase because the confusion that comes in and people don't understand, because it's not a linear logical reality. Droves is off the charts, to the point that we can't service each person individually because there's so many people. And so, yes, it's in droves, and it's going to continue to increase because the mass population is now waking up. And it's challenging their whole reality, which is the point, okay? Because we have to learn to live from our heart instead of our head.
They need new answers because the old answers aren't working for them anymore.
But they have to choose to explore.
Girls, you guys are going to
Okay.
keep going over. I got to stop the show.
Okay.
This is Powered Up Talk Radio. Our guests today are Lisa Transcendence Brown. You can find her at awakeningtoremember.com. We've got Linda Franklin and Fred Lanzetta. We'll be back again next week with another great show.
From New York City to Los Angeles, Powered Up Talk Radio is giving women of all ages permission to live the life they'd always dreamed of.